into the club, 'cause you're that kind of nerd.
Welcome, everyone, to That Kind of Nerds podcast, a weekly show that tells you what is going on in the nerdy world. I am CJ Mellon, joined by the one and the only Josh Burns.
What up?
Unfortunately, Brian cannot be with us. He actually disappeared under mysterious circumstances, but things have been moving around in my house, so I assume the two are not correlated or connected at all.
Not at all.
The reason I obviously make that reference is because we are doing something that we normally do for our Patreon feeds. We are doing a spoiler cast for the recently released in February, The Invisible Man, which sounds like it would be terrible. But I'll give you my quick first impressions. Was pretty darn good. Starring Elizabeth Moss. And then people that you really don't know too well.
Aldous Hodge, man.
Okay. Yes. But he's not like top marquee, is he?
Nah, I mean, other than Jack Reacher and the show Leverage, we talked about him in some other role he did. I like the dude. Oh, he was in Straight Outta Compton.
Yes, okay.
I like the dude.
For those of you who are not familiar with this, let me give you the premise of it. When Cecilia's abusive ex takes his own life and leaves her his fortune, she suspects his death was a hoax. As a series of coincidences turn lethal, Cecilia works to prove that she is being hunted by someone that no one can see. This is a Blumhouse movie, and if you don't follow that at all, they are really great at doing low-budget horror movies that do really well. If I remember correctly, I believe Happy Death Day was also a Blumhouse movie.
That sounds right.
And then they've done a few other things. There was also talk that this was initially pitched as supposed to be part of the Universal's Dark Universe movie, but then obviously when that fell apart, they went a different direction with this movie. So initially, I will tell you, I was not on board for this. I was not ready to let this movie do its thing. But Brian watched it, said, hey, it's actually really good. You should really give it a chance. So I took him on his word. And my first impression, I was actually really, really surprised and really dug this movie and thought they did the whole Invisible Man thing in a new way. And I left really satisfied. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a horror fan, obviously, and I said, I told Laura, like, I need to watch this for the podcast. You want to watch it with me? She's like, yeah. So, and I didn't say, oh, it's horror. Well, what kind of? I'm like, it's an invisible man. There's an invisible man. It's called the Invisible Man.
Right.
There's going to be an invisible man. Infer from that what you will. And just a few minutes into the movie, there's a scene where Elizabeth Moss goes sleepy buys, and her blanket gets slowly pulled off her, and Laura's like, "Nope, I'm out. There's a global pandemic, and now I'm gonna have nightmares about this for the rest of my life." So just before we proceed, Blumhouse was involved with a lot of stuff,
yes,
and not just they did Whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
As well. Glass, Split, Upgrade, which I think we all liked.
I did. Get Out. They also did Get Out.
Yeah. So like, I wasn't, and yes, Happy Death Day, obviously, but like, I wasn't immediately, panning this as a horror, because it's not really.
It's more of a suspense / thriller.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Blumhouse, I really think their claim to fame, what really put them on the map was they were the people behind The Purge. And they really are known for these horror movies that they churn out really quickly. I think like the earliest movie that I could find on their resume was Paranormal Activity, was also a big hit, and that was like 2007. So they've done quite a lot, and quite a lot of movies within a quick span, around almost 50 plus movies. So they are well known, but they're pretty much known for horror. So I want to tackle one part of this. I know the biggest thing for me was seeing The Invisible Man. The last time that we ever discussed The Invisible Man was on the Patreon exclusive for The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which was a Invisible Man that was very close to the original lore. a guy working in a lab who turned himself invisible kind of thing.
And becomes a prankster.
Right, who becomes, a jolly guy, and he's nice, and he's not, a vindictive murderer or anything like that. So I didn't know how they were going to handle the fact that this is set in modern times, right? This is set in 2020, 2019-ish time periods. How do you make an invisible man? I don't think people are going to buy, I'm working in a lab and turned myself invisible. So for this movie, they turned it out that the guy was a fiber optics.
He was an optics pioneer.
Expert. He was
not fiber optics.
Sorry, just optics. Thank you. You're right.
Like lenses, cameras, things like that.
Camera. Correct. And he made a suit that basically has a shit ton of cameras on it and then reflects what's around it and therefore invisible. Were you satisfied with that? Was that believable enough? Was that a cool way to kind of go about that?
Well, I mean, that's what stealth technology is, right? We've accepted it in all of our superhero movies and whatnot, right? So yeah, I mean, is it a little far-fetched? Yes. There would have to be some noise associated, not only with all these cameras doing their thing, all these like seeing eyes doing their thing, oscillating and whatnot, but also like the dude's not weightless. I mean,
there should be a lot of footsteps.
So I can suspend disbelief long enough to buy into the concept as a prototype. I did not like if I'm saying like from the suit itself or the guy himself. What am I saying? Do I believe it?
The suit. We'll go with the suit first. Just the technology in order to do that.
Yeah, I mean. I feel like you crack one lens and the whole thing is shot, though.
Well, I mean, and that's something that happens in the movie, right? Elizabeth Moss's character damages it, and it's still like half working.
Yeah, but it not just like it's working completely, and
right, and then it flickers.
And it does. It just that part for me, I was like that's not consistent. Not with at least anything that I mean, if you have a little tiny smudge on one of your lenses in a corner, you're like, what is that? It's big as day, right? So you got to think like any damage to one of these things is going to be like catastrophic for the whole suit.
I like the fact there were two things I thought of, just again, technology standpoint was, I mean, if you ever seen like Daft Punk's helmets or Dead Mouse's helmets, right? Their big heads that have LED lights and stuff on it. There are fans and shit that are in there. Like there's a cooling system that has to be in place. So, there's just like you said, there's got to be some noise. Plus the bottom of his feet don't seem to, show up. There's no shadows either. Right. So like there's a lot of technology at play. However, because they didn't try to really go into the science of it, because they didn't like try to give you a huge explanation, just the fact that he is an optics expert and they left it at that, they didn't paint themselves into, I think, a technological corner.
I guess. And like,
you go, well, clearly they would all.
If you just don't think about it too hard, right? Then you could probably be like, oh, that's really scary. Not like, whoa. So it just puts what's on the other side of him in front of him,
right? But I mean, just to your point too, right? We talk about, if there was a smudge or a fly or whatever, something, right?
Anything.
Right. It would eventually show up. And it reminds me of the Spider-Man Homecoming scene where he's crawling on the jet for Tony Stark that's using this kind of exact technology. Right. And when he's crawling out, then it's a big version of Spider-Man on the fucking, on the display. So I'm thinking the same thing. But I'm with you. I'm willing to suspend my belief enough to buy it for the 2 hours that this movie is.
I bought it for most of the 2 hours.
Okay. Once it got damaged, you kind of lost. All right. I can see that. I can give you that one. The thing I did like about it, though, was the design was creepy. It was scary. It was porous. It looked like little black holes all over. So
a bajillion eyeballs.
Yeah, when exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So when they pour paint on it or when it gets damaged and you finally see the suit, it is creepy. It is a little scary. You're like, wow, well, I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect that. Bah! And you're taken aback for a little bit. So I bought it and thought it was a really cool design.
Yeah, like I don't know. Is it like I had a problem with the paint thing. It's not, and I don't know the term, but it's not oleophobic. That has to do with oil.
Oh, you're talking about the whole thing?
But
when
like how do you shake the paint out of every crevice of the, you know what I mean? Like there's things. I have things, right? There's that, and like all of a sudden this dude is like freakishly strong. Listen, I understand and can even buy into knocking these dudes out with a single blow, and because
I imagine the suit has weight behind it too, right?
Well, all right. And then how did he not damage the optics that are on the hands and arms by hitting things with it? But forget that for a second. Just for a second, forget that. Like if you are just standing, minding your own business, walking straight ahead, and you get a haymaker, it's going to knock your ass out. If you're not expecting it, or if you're walking into it, it's going to knock your ass out. So I can buy into that.
Yeah.
What I can't buy into is dude grabbing, let's call her 140-pound Cecilia and throwing her across a room over a table.
Right.
No. Nope.
Yeah. I agree with that too. So I want to put those things aside. We'll get to that in a minute. But I do, again, overall, I do like the way they handled this. Let's make Invisible Man modern. I'm
liking it less now that we're talking about it. But like on first watch, yeah, I was like, okay. I mean, creepy, but yeah, for sure.
So the other half to this is also a little bit of that mystery suspense of who is the Invisible Man? Is it actually her abusive ex-boyfriend? Is it somebody else? Is he dead? Is he not? A lot of questions that are kind of asked throughout that movie. We get introduced to a couple characters, a couple of red herrings as well, and I overall enjoyed the twist. However, I did see it coming when they revealed who the Invisible Man was.
Yeah.
But not the fact that, okay, spoiler alerts, obviously. Not the fact that the ex-boyfriend was tied up and still alive. I thought he really was dead, and the boyfriend was just...
No.
Was the brother, I should say, was just carrying out the will.
No, I figured there had to be at least two of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think for a second that...
Because he made two suits.
Well, he made at least two, because she had one.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so there were still two in operation, and she had one. So, look, the brother was, I don't know, like he starts off like a scumbag, and then all of a sudden he's on her side, and I'm like, nah, I'm not buying. Oh yeah,
not buying him at all.
Right. So I figured he was, they're working together, is what I thought, and then forget about who manipulates who, But it just the whole thing was super sketchy for me from the very beginning.
Yeah, but I mean, both brothers clearly conspired to make Cecilia's life fucking miserable, to commit the murders.
Crazy.
I mean, they went to lengths to really kind of just take it to her. So they both end up being the Invisible Man, right? And obviously taking turns and staging it to make it look like that. The boyfriend Oliver was just a guy who was a casualty. But along the way are some really good scenes and a really couple big shocks that come from this. So the biggest thing for me was when Elizabeth Moss's character Cecilia goes to dinner with her sister Emily. They've had a falling out, and she's trying to explain to her the situation. She's finally getting her on board, and then literally out of nowhere, a knife just comes out, slices the sister's throat, and the knife goes right to Elizabeth Moss's character's hands, and it looks like she killed her sister. And I didn't see it coming, and I was as shocked as some of the people in the restaurant that watched her die. What was like maybe the biggest Invisible Man shock moment for you out of the movie, Josh?
Shock moment. Well, I think probably that one was the big shock moment, but I thought that really the end of the movie for me, like I was not expecting, I was expecting him to confess somehow, right? Or start playing a game with her and get caught, and then, Aldous Hodge comes in and blah. I was not expecting
revenge.
No. And how'd she get the suit on so fast and get, you know what I mean?
More questions about
There's more questions, but yeah, I thought that her sort of triumphant end was the big moment for me.
Oh, the thing that I really liked about this movie and why some of these Invisible Man moments were pretty big shocks was something that Brian actually pointed out to me and kind of sold me on watching the movie for the first time. He goes, something that they do a lot from the very beginning of the movie are long, wide establishing shots of nothing, empty space. We open with a very long, wide shot of touring the house to show those two in bed. A lot of empty space is shown quite frequently in the movie to make you question, is somebody there? Is he there? Is this where is he? But then they do it in the beginning so much that it lulls you into this false sense of security that you're not noticing the wide shots anymore. That when finally you see in the kitchen knife move off the table, my wife missed it at first. I was like, did you see that? Whoa. Let's rewind that back. Watch the knife. She's like, oh my God, I didn't see that. Because we had these long shots, these wide shots for so long. Mm-hmm. I think it was a really good way to, again, create suspense, but also kind of make you never feel safe, that something at any moment could just jump out of the corner.
The first thing I noticed was the breath, the cold breath behind her when she was outside. When she's breathing, you can see her breath, and then all of a sudden you see one shot of breath behind her, and I went, oh shit, here we go, right? And then you had the blanket scene, but the camera work was spectacular.
And it's one of those things too where I think what you and I don't like about horror movies and what we don't like about them, it's a lot of the crappy jump scares, right? Mm-hmm. It's a ton of jump scares in most of movies like this, and I didn't really see anything that was jump scary.
They set up the ladder moment as a jump scare, right? When she tossed paint. But no, I mean, for the most part, no, it was not a jump scare.
Yeah, which I definitely thought was pretty good. So I want to talk about some of the acting now. So I want to talk about, first off, Elizabeth Moss. I don't know if you're watching Handmaid's Tale or anything else that she's in besides Mad Men. I think is probably the last thing you watch with Elizabeth Moss in it. How was her performance for you? You know, not seeing her in a movie or anything in quite some time. How did you buy her for the character of Cecilia?
Yeah, I mean, I thought she was good. There was no, I didn't find her hokey or forced at all. Like I thought she carried it well. I mean, she was, there's a lot of desperation there. I mean, she was at her wit's end, right? So yeah, I thought she did very well. And I thought maybe the chance for her to sort of go overboard would have been the inevitable confrontation, right? She when she stole the pen, that confrontation scene in the institution,
the mental institution,
yeah, I thought that would have been a chance for her to sort of overact or for it to get hokey, and it didn't. I was thrilled with Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think that's the part I also liked about this movie was just what you just said, the restraint from a lot of these people in a really ridiculous situation that could turn to overacting and melodrama, and they definitely didn't. I think when it comes to the supporting cast, there weren't a lot of great standout performances, but they did the job of supporting it. So I think that Harriet Dyer, who played the sister, she was really good. And then you liked Aldous Hodge as a character as well,
I thought
too.
He did a great job. Yeah, I mean, and from the perspective that he's exactly what you'd want him to be. Like the dude was compassionate, super supportive. Even though he is a detective, he wasn't over the top cop guy.
Yeah.
He was just very, very sort of nurturing and supportive throughout the entire movie. Even when it looked like she was going off the rails, he still supported her. Which I was not expecting. I thought it was kind of like everybody was going to turn. He was still very much in her corner, although still, making his daughter his top priority. Right. Was still there for Cecilia.
I gotta say that was one moment that I was pretty. Obviously, there's a lot of death and murder in this, right? From the Invisible Man, and there's a lot of crappy things going on. But the moment where he's in the room, unbeknownst to them, and hits Sydney, the niece or the young daughter of James, and she starts freaking out, saying, "Oh my God, you hit me!" And she's like, I didn't hit you. And that's the moment where James just comes in and says, listen, I don't give a shit about you right now. I gotta keep my daughter safe. Again, big chance to go ahead and just swing for the fence, but really reined in and was pretty realistic. And I can imagine being a dad, being in that situation, not handling it like that, right, and going off the fucking handle. But seeing his choice was pretty good. So I also think that has to do with some of the writing for this movie, and I thought that the writers did a pretty great job of making sure that this was a whole world, right? That this was a believable world, and this was something that we could kind of ground this in. I'm not sure if he has done anything really of. He did a couple Saw movies. Oh, he wrote Saw, so never mind. Yeah, okay, so he's no amateur. Wait, did he write Saw or did he do Saw? No, he wrote Saw. Yeah. So I mean, definitely a good writer. So I thought they did a really great job. So I mean, we talked a little bit about what we liked. We talked a little bit about what we don't. I kind of am curious though. I mean, what is the biggest thing that you kind of took away from this movie? Was it the fact that the technology was just too much to ask, or was it the fact that, hey, this really was a pretty good movie?
No, I mean, I thought they pulled it off as like a tension builder, thriller type movie. They tied the whole story together in a neat little bow without, too much like pomp or circumstance, right? It was they explained it away pretty fast. No, I thought that they did enough with what they had to make it worth a watch. Like I'm not disappointed by it at all, despite the little analysis that we had there. Like it's fine. It's I mean, it's an anxiety driver for sure. Yeah, it's a little rough in the build up, but then you actually start to calm down as the craziness sort of ensues.
You know what? That's a really good observation, because as things got crazier, as you kind of doubt Cecilia's mental stability, or you just kind of see her having to wrestle that and trying to convince people, I'm not crazy. I'm thinking about what I would do in those situations. Like, how would I convince somebody I don't belong in a mental institution? I don't think I could. I think I'm fucked.
Like at that point, I honestly think like you're just happy to know like sort of who and where the enemy is, because until that point in the movie, you are completely in the dark, so to speak, as to what might happen. So like when at least what you're running from, like when the suit becomes sort of half visible, right? Because it's damaged at that point. And you're at that point, you're probably maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah.
Like that's the point where you start to like calm down a bit, because up until that point, you're like, son of a bitch, what's next?
Yeah. And then you're kind of in. And what that brings me to a point too. This has a pretty good action scene in the hallway of this mental institution where this invisible man is taking out these security guards left and right. But at the same time, there are many times there's just a gun floating through the air, and they're telling her to get down.
Right.
And like, put your hands behind your back. I'm like, we all see the floating gun, right? Are we worried about the guy, the lady who's on the floor screaming, "Oh, watch out, and right in front of you, careful! Oh, now behind you." Why aren't you paying attention to the fucking floating gun?
Yeah.
But anyway, I did like it. Would you recommend this movie to other people?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you don't have a heart condition, watch the movie.
And if you had to rank this out of 5 stars, where would you put it?
Out of 5 stars.
You can do halves.
Yeah, I'll give it a 3.5.
That's exactly what I gave it to. I gave it a 3.5. So let's get into some fun facts about this. Do you want to guess at the budget for The Invisible Man?
20 million.
It was the $7 million budget.
Really?
Shoestring and a pack of gum.
Yeah, seriously.
Opening weekend was the first one in March of 2020, so things were still, functional then. It grossed $28 million. U.S. gross so far, 64.9, and worldwide cumulative gross of $122 million.
So people are paying that $20 rental fee.
Mm-hmm. And some people actually got to see it while it was in the theaters, but people are definitely watching this movie. So I'm on board for it. I think it's definitely worth a watch. I think even as you and I are not fans of horror movies, and Happy Death Day being something completely different with that element of comedy in it, this with the suspense and thriller aspect of it, I still think tread the line where you don't have to be in love with this genre to actually go ahead and watch it. So I would definitely recommend it. And I know Brian would as well. He was really into this movie, but as we learned, Brian's becoming our a little horror fan. So it was good to see that. Well, listener, and as we said, we know things are changing, and we definitely thank you so much for listening to the show and supporting us. We hope that you're enjoying these little reviews, and if you do like that, I highly encourage that you go check out our Patreon if you are able to. Join and get exclusive access to a catalog, over 28 retro reviews, spoiler casts of other movies I definitely know you will enjoy. We will be back next week. We don't know exactly what we're going to be doing yet, but I have a feeling we're going to be either watching a couple other movies, or we're going to be talking about what we're doing in quarantine and what are we watching. So definitely stay tuned so that way we can have some great conversations. Now, as I've also said, there is a fourth voice of this podcast, and it is you, listener, and we definitely want to hear from you while you're at home. What are you doing? What are you watching? What would you like us to watch as well? You can text us at 484-373-4119, or of course, you can always find us on any social platform at That Kind of Nerd, at That Kind of Nerd Podcast on Instagram. Thank you so much for making us your walk around whatever it is you're doing, or your drive to wherever it is you are. And we'll talk to you next week.
Well, welcome to the club, 'cause you are that kind of nerd.